Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the newest album from Dierks Bentley, The Mountain. So I'll freely admit, it wasn't quite my plan to cover this. Well, okay, that's not quite true. I was planning on adding this to my schedule naturally, but then nobody added the Kanye West and Kid Cudi collaboration, given that most of my Patreon supporters aren't hip-hop heads, and given how quickly that album attracted attention, I really had to stop everything and ensure it got on my schedule. And even then, I still had other albums that would have come in ahead of this, and yet the more listens I gave them, the less I really had to say. I've already talked about Licky Lee, but it became especially true for Lily Allen, where decent writing was squandered on utterly forgettable production, and for Sugarland, which might have landed a couple good hooks, but was crippled by slapdash production, underweight writing, and the awful decision that they should try to rap. Both albums are winding up on the trailing edge, and for good reason. And honestly, if I hadn't been aware that Dierks Bentley had intended The Mountain as a course correction, I would have had some similar concerns that some tendencies like that could creep into his work. It wasn't like he hadn't gone in that direction before, as he's always stayed a little bit adjacent to popular trends in the mainstream, which is one of the big reasons he took off to make the Bluegrass album Up the Ridge in 2010, but then pivoted back, with several cuts on 2014's Riser taking him perilously close to bro country, and 2016's Black was damn near a desaturated pop album, only saved by Dierks Bentley having better taste than the majority of his peers, and deep cuts that tended to be of pretty high quality. Keep in mind that his song Here on Earth made my top 10 favorite songs of 2014 across all genres. He can be that good when he really wants to be. So yeah, I had some high hopes with The Mountain. Buzz was suggesting he was making a hard pivot towards more heartland rock tinged Americana and country, and he was recruiting Brothers Osborne and Brandi Carlile to do so, and if there was a sound that could pretty much flatter Dierks Bentley's voice, it would be that. I had every reason to believe this would be at least pretty damn solid, so did The Mountain get there? Okay, I gotta be honest, I was intending this review for a couple days ago, but it's the hardest kind of review to make interesting, and it wasn't for the fact that I did want to give Dierks Bentley some airtime and some attention. I probably would have put this on the trailing edge too, albeit for different reasons, because there's just not a lot to say about The Mountain as the right kind of course correction, the sort of album where you can tell that Dierks Bentley is somewhat getting back to his roots and making the sort of middle-aged, rootsy, mature music that you can tell feels a lot more natural than whatever the hell that he was trying on Black, and even then I appreciated that album more than most. But on the flip side with that, for as much as I can call this pretty damn good, I'm struggling to find a lot more to say about it, because it's not like I don't like a bunch of other country in this vein that is smarter and aims higher. And I'm sorry, Dierks Bentley just isn't in the same territory as a Jason Isbell or Lori McKenna or Karen Jonas. It's a good album, but it's not great. And I think a big part of this comes down to the songwriting, so let's start there. Now, I'll definitely give points to Dierks Bentley for avoiding the goofy, obvious bro country tropes that have stuck around and reframing a lot of his music for an older, maybe even adult contemporary audience. Even though you wouldn't think that, given how the album starts with Burning Man, with Brothers Osborne in their very low-key, don't-give-a-shit mold that increasingly strikes me as a really poor fit for the duo, even if they finally do start shredding on the final third of the song. Even if you could argue that Dierks Bentley gave his own band more space on the title track a song later. But after that, in the title track, we get Living, the sort of blissful, married couple minus kids song that is a natural fit for Dierks Bentley, and certainly is pleasant. It accomplishes exactly what it set out to do for its target audience, but there just isn't much of a sense of stakes or drama to make it all that interesting for me. Again, it's good, but it doesn't do more. Honestly, it's probably one of the reasons why Woman Amen doesn't do a lot for me either, despite the huge hook. It's a good love song, but it's missing that added bit of detail or flair to drive it home for me and feel really distinctive. And when you follow it with You Can't Bring Me Down, it just feels like we're settling in for a very placid, borderline self-satisfied experience that is smart enough to at least reference a rougher past, but isn't really going to seriously engage with a lot of it. And this reminded me immediately of the last Turnpike Troubadours album, A Long Way to Your Heart, which, yes, was also a record about growing up, getting a little bit more mature, settling down, but that album opened up with the protagonist's house on fire and burning down, and a string of near constant, very detailed reminders that his old old way of living had some real burning consequences. Literally. Now, you know what, to be fair, when Dierks Bentley pivots to songs with the relationship drama, his knack for adding some more shades of nuance definitely plays to his advantage in the writing. Goodbye and Telluride, it might feel kind of conventional in some of the composition, but I like the sentiment in trying to preserve things a little bit longer term. But it also suffers the problem of being sequenced right after Nothing On But the Stars, which turns up the heat on a near identical situation and actually winds up being a fair bit better, at least from a writing standpoint. And then you get the opposite case near the end of the album, with Stranger to Myself being a pretty great ode to old drunken days that he set aside when he met his girl. But 2 songs later, it's followed up by How I'm Going Out, that plays in the exact same territory but feels a lot sharper and winds up as a really fantastic album closer and one of the best songs that Dierks Bentley has ever cut. Not quite Here on Earth category and territory. Nothing on this album really quite gets close to that level of quality, but yeah, it's definitely close. It's a fantastic song. Honestly, I wish Dierks Bentley had maybe played up the outdoorsy mountain angle a little bit more, because of this thick, expressive, but slightly shredded vocals and knack for slightly more high-concept, rugged tableaus, songs like the title track and Son of the Sun, they're actually pretty solid and distinctive, and he can capture both sides of that lonely journey in the wild, from the detailed wistfulness of My Religion to the melancholy of knowing and accepting how the relationship ended on One Way, to the more upbeat cheer venturing back off with Travelin' Light with Brandi Carlile, where outside of thinking that she maybe could have been mixed a little bit better, the two have some good chemistry and it's a really good song. But this takes us to the production as a whole, and look, I've ripped into Ross Copperman a fair few times before, and this album immediately has the advantage of being compared to Black and being favorable there, so I guess I'll give him credit for moving towards a rootsier sound, at least on a fair few songs like the title track, My Way, and especially the final few songs like the bluegrass twinges that broke into Traveling Light and sounded really good. There's more fiddles, banjo, more organic drum work, more dense acoustic arrangements, a little bit more bite on the solos, and it's all really melodic. But like with Black, the problem is production inconsistency. Why not get rid of all the programmed percussion altogether instead of plugging it behind Living and You Can't Bring Me Down, especially when you're just gonna bring in real drums for the hook anyway? Why blow the snare drums and the cymbals so damn loud for a slow burn hookup song on Nothing On But the Stars and add in programmed beats on the verse when they don't need to be there? Why make the guitar phrase and the hand clap sound so damn stiff on Goodbye and Telluride before you decide to bring in a more organic groove for the hook anyway? And again, when you get songs like the more atmospheric simmer of My Religion with some really well-defined bass, or the plucky atmospherics of Stranger to Myself with plenty of pedal steel that sounds really damn good, you know that Ross Copperman can bring that more spacious sound that's reminiscent of Black to bear with a little bit more organic production and actually make it sound pretty good. So it leaves me wondering if this is a play for mainstream crossover appeal on later singles, or just him taking shortcuts as he doesn't want to bring back the drummer, especially considering their lead-off single, Woman Amen, does fall closer to the rootsier side, so it's inconsistent, but I don't know why. But as a whole, look, it's a very good album. It doesn't feel nearly as compromised as parts of Riser did, and it's definitely stronger than Black, but I feel like for the 8 to 10 listens I gave this, I should like it a lot more. I really struggled with this review, and at this point it feels like for Dierks Bentley to get to that next level, there needs to be some more ambition in the writing, or maybe a change in the production team. But I'm still left with questions where Dierks Bentley even wants to go. He's in his early 40s, he's making music that makes him sound like he's in his early 40s, he's got a diehard fan base and enough of a back catalog so he could do whatever the hell he wants. So the fact that we're still getting compromised moments on this album at all, it's kind of bothersome. So yeah, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 and a recommendation, but also if for some ungodly reason he's watching, bit of advice. At this point, I would argue Nashville needs you a lot more than the other way around, and it's clear that you want to make more organic music, so don't re-up your contract at Capitol if it expires. Go independent or maybe Broken Bow with Jason Aldean if you need some sort of distributor and you don't want to leave the network there. You don't have to make any concessions for your art at this point. And again, you've got everything to gain by giving that approach a shot. I reckon the music will probably be better for it. This might be good, but I remember Up on the Ridge. I know you, Dierks Bentley. You're capable of greatness, and I just want to hear it. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'd like to like and subscribe. I'd be more than grateful. I'm amazed I got this much material out of this album. I really am. I think I've spent most of this time trying to decode what the hell was going on, but again, with my schedule as busy as it is, and then Jay and Beyonce decided to drop an album from out of nowhere, I will get to it. And you guys want to actually get involved with my schedule, link to my Patreon is right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, you guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. More details right over there. Happy to see you guys get on board. If you want to see a schedule, it's on my Instagram, link down there below. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. You want to buy the record, down there in the description below. And I got the poll up there. I'm curious where you guys who are diehard Dierks Bentley fans fall on this, because you guys seem mostly pretty rational when it comes to these reviews, so you'll see what happens. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.